It's late, you're alone, and there's a reason most people never think this deeply at this hour, because some realizations are uncomfortable. Not dramatically uncomfortable, quietly uncomfortable. The kind that don't arrive loudly, but settle in slowly and change the shape of everything after them. You've had a feeling before, not anxiety exactly, something quieter. The sense that the version of reality you've been operating inside might not be the complete one. That something important has always been there, just at the edge of what you were looking at, and you were never quite looking directly at it. Tonight, you're going to look directly at it, not because someone decided you should, because some part of you has been moving toward this for a while. The room is the same, the world outside is the same, but by the time this is over, you will not see either of them in quite the same way. That's not a promise. That's just what happens. When you finally see something that was always there, most people believe they see the world clearly, that what they notice is simply what's there, that their thoughts are their own, that their reactions belong to them, that the reality they experience is the reality that exists. But perception doesn't work like that. Not even close. By the time something reaches your conscious awareness, it has already been through a process, filtered, prioritized, edited not by you, by systems inside you that operate completely outside your awareness. Systems that decided what was worth your attention and what wasn't, what emotional weight to assign. Before you had a chance to assign it yourself, your conscious mind receives a result, not the raw data. The processed version, already shaped, already decided. And you experience that processed version as reality, not as an interpretation, as the thing itself. Once you understand that, once you really let it land, the question stops being what is happening around you. The question becomes, what is the process doing, and what designed it? Tonight, 5 things you already knew, but hadn't quite let yourself fully know. Pay attention. This is the kind of content that changes shape as you sit with it. Right now, your eyes are open. You're seeing the room around you. The light, the objects, the space, and it feels immediate, direct. Like the world is simply presenting itself, and you are receiving it. That feeling is one of the most persistent illusions in human experience. The visual information your eyes collect travels to the brain as electrical signals. Incomplete, fragmented, full of gaps. The brain takes those signals and constructs an image, fills in the gaps, applies pattern recognition, references stored models of what things are supposed to look like, and uses those models to complete what the eyes only partially captured. What you see is a reconstruction, built from incomplete data, using templates from everything you've seen before. There is a point in your visual field called the blind spot, where the optic nerve connects to the retina. There are no photoreceptors. No visual information is captured there. There is a literal hole in what your eyes collect, and you never see it, not because it isn't there. Because your brain fills it in, seamlessly with whatever it expects to be there. You are looking at a completed picture, constructed in real time, by a system whose primary goal is coherence, not accuracy. Coherence. The philosopher Emmanuel Kant described something like this in 1781. The idea that the human mind doesn't passively receive reality, it actively constructs it. That your experience of the world is always, already, an interpretation. And if your visual experience of this room right now is a construction, what else is constructed? Your memory of yesterday, your sense of who you are, your understanding of the people around you, your feeling that the present moment is stable and clear. All of it built by the same system, filling the gaps with what it expects, rather than what's there. You don't see reality, you see your brain's best guess at it. And your brain is very confident in its guesses. You just had a thought, you didn't choose it, it arrived, and the thought before that also arrived. And the reaction you had this morning to something small that felt disproportionate, you didn't choose that either, it happened. The question most people never ask, where do thoughts come from? Not in a mystical sense, in a precise neurological sense. What is the process that generates a thought and delivers it to your conscious awareness as if it were yours? Neuroscientist Benjamin Libet ran an experiment in the 1980s that disturbed a significant number of people when they understood it. Participants were asked to flex their wrist whenever they felt like it. They noted the clock position At the moment they became aware of the intention to move, what Libet found was that brain activity associated with the movement began approximately half a second before participants reported becoming aware of the intention. The brain prepared the action before the conscious mind knew it was going to happen. What we experience as conscious decision-making may often be awareness arriving after the fact, a narration of a decision that was already in process. This doesn't mean you have no agency, but it means the story of how your decisions are made. The story where a conscious you deliberates and chooses is at least partially a story your brain tells you after something has already happened. The voice in your head that you experience as you is not the originator of your experience. It is more like a commentator, running slightly behind. Describing a game it didn't call, that voice feels like the most intimate thing you have, the most certainly you. And it may be the last thing to know what you're actually doing. There is something running underneath your behavior, something older than your current situation, older than the relationships you're in right now, older than the beliefs you currently hold. Psychologists call them schemas, mental structures built from early experience that act as templates for interpreting everything that follows. Your first experiences of being cared for or not cared for generated a template for what relationships feel like, what safety feels like, what you have to do to maintain connection, what silence means, what distance means, and that template built decades ago in a context that no longer exists is still running right now. In every interaction you have, it doesn't announce itself. It just produces a feeling, a reaction, a behavior that feels entirely like your response to what's happening right now. But it isn't only that, it's also a response to everything that happened before. The particularly difficult thing about schemas is that they tend to recreate the conditions they were built to respond to. The person who learned early that love comes with withdrawal may find themselves in relationships where withdrawal is present, not because they're seeking pain, because the familiar pattern, even when painful, registers as known, and known registers as safe. The pattern isn't you, but it has been producing results in your life for longer than you've been aware of it. And awareness, even partial awareness, changes the relationship between you and the pattern. Not immediately, but genuinely. You have beliefs about the world, about people, about what is possible and what isn't, about what you deserve and what you don't. Those beliefs feel like yours, like the product of your own observation, your own reasoned assessment of reality. Most of what you believe arrived before you had the capacity to evaluate it, before you could ask, is this true, or is this simply what I was told by people whose authority I had no framework to question? The beliefs that arrived early arrived with an advantage. They shaped what felt normal. Before you knew what normal was, they defined the container. Before you had anything to put in it. The beliefs you hold about yourself, the ones that feel most certain, about what you're capable of, what you're worth, what you should settle for, were formed by people with their own incomplete understanding, their own unexamined assumptions, their own schemas running on them. While they shaped yours, they didn't give you the truth about yourself. They gave you their version of it, and you absorbed it. Before you knew another version existed, you are not your beliefs, but you have been living inside them as if they were walls rather than windows. The question worth sitting with is, which of your most certain beliefs would you still choose if you were choosing now with everything you currently know, rather than inheriting them before you knew anything at all? There is a space. Most people spend their entire lives without finding it, not because it's hidden, because it's small. And the momentum of ordinary experience moves right through it without pause. It exists between stimulus and response, between something happening and your reaction to it, between the trigger and the behavior, between the feeling and what you do with the feeling. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps. What he carried out of that experience was one observation he could not unfeel. Between stimulus and response, he wrote, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is always there, in the conversation that irritates you, in the message that triggers something old, in the situation that activates a pattern you recognize. But finding the space requires having noticed the pattern first. requires knowing what is automatic so you can feel it arriving, rather than only discovering you were inside it after it already produced something. Every pattern we discussed tonight, the constructed perception, the thoughts arriving from somewhere you can't observe, the schemas running from early experience, the beliefs installed before you could evaluate them. These are not problems to solve, they are processes to see. And seeing them changes the relationship between you and the automatic. Not overnight, but genuinely, permanently. Nothing around you changed. The room is the same, the world outside is the same. But something is different, not in what you know and how you're holding it. You see your perception differently, not as a window, but as a construction, built in real time, by a system doing its best with incomplete data. You see your thoughts differently, not as the voice of a unified self, but as arrivals. Events in consciousness that you can observe rather than only inhabit. You see your patterns differently, not as personality, but as templates, running faithfully. In contexts where they may no longer apply, you see your beliefs differently, not as the truth about you, but as the version of you, assembled before you were old enough to assemble yourself. None of this makes life simpler. It makes it more honest. An honesty, even when uncomfortable, is always worth more than the comfort of a simpler picture. The room is the same, you are the same person you were when this started, and yet something in the way you're looking is different. That difference, small as it is the beginning of actually seeing clearly, carry it carefully,